Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Sound of Sirens podcast. I'm one half of your host, Larry Frederick, and this is an important announcement. This podcast contains explicit material that isn't recommended for young audiences, such as language and depictions of graphic nature, so listener discretion is going to be advised. Keep in mind that the views and opinions of this podcast are that of the host and do not reflect the views of the guests, affiliates, or sponsors of the show in any way, shape, or form. Also, please remember that the individuals mentioned on this show, regardless of involvement, are to be considered innocent until proven guilty in court. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's start the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sound of Sirens podcast. As always, I am your host, Larry Frederick, and it has been a minute. Let me see if I can remember how to do this correctly. I want to thank everybody who stuck around during my little hiatus and trying to write a book and whatnot. It's going pretty well. I'm extremely humbled. I'm usually able to write anything that I want, and this got me stumped a little bit. But again, thank you for everybody who stuck around. Thank you for all of my new listeners since we've integrated into Apple Podcast. That has drawn my viewership up quite a bit. And today we have another really good story for you. It come out as a suicide. However, the family thinks that there is foul play involved. And after gathering a lot of the details, I can't say that I disagree with them. The story is of Michaela Jeffries of Sweeny, Texas. We've been there before with Will Gray. We know how shoddy some of the police work can be because of how small the town is and whatnot. But we're going to try to get some answers for this family, and it's answers that they very well deserve. If you hear my children crying in the background, it's because I held them here against their will. Not really, but they want to go home. So I apologize if we have some background interference, but I'm going to get through this the best I can, and hopefully it's not too much interference. But without further ado, and without going on not mentioning these people, I do want to recognize our top fans that have stuck around for the entirety of my hiatus, starting with my sister-in-law, Courtney Reed. Thank you. And for 3 months, we have Mike Big Sr. And for 10 months, we have the Find Will Gray page. Also for 10 months, we have Terry Bonvicino. 10 months as well, Mr. Richie Arnold. For 11 months, we have Sophie Hernandez. Also for 11 months, Miss Beverly Williams. Also 11 months, Daisha Hartman Brazel. And last but not least, on a 12-month, that is an entire year, a 1 year streak, Miss Shelley Newberry. Thank you so much to everybody who has stuck around on the show and not left us while we were on our hiatus. I greatly appreciate it. And for everybody who is going to venture over to the podcast as a result of this investigation, I thank you all as well. Let's do our best to get this family some answers. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start the interview. The interview is going to be with Miss Crystal, who is a very good friend of Michaela Jeffries' mother. Let's get this thing started. All right, I have Miss Crystal on the line now. Miss Crystal, how are you doing?
Fine, how are you?
I'm good. Can you tell my listeners who you are and your relationship to Michaela and her case?
I am friends with Michaela's mom and dad, Paula and Alan Jeffries. Kind of more like family. They kind of took me in when I moved to Sweeny. I didn't have any family there.
Okay, and for the person who hasn't got the chance to hear about the case through me or through anybody else, can you tell us when this took place and kind of just the backstory behind it?
On November 15th of 24, Michaela left her job. She worked with her grandmother at a daycare, and she left her job early, 11:30ish, and was going home. And around approximately 3 o'clock, around that time, we found out that there had been a murder at Windmill Run, which is where Michaela resided with her husband's sister, and her son from a previous relationship. And after a couple of hours, um, because I do not reside in Sweeny anymore, but after a couple of hours, I had received the message that it was Michaela. Um, I had found out that Paula had received a call, and I had some friends reach out and tell me that there was a bunch of people there's a lot next to the police department there in Sweeny. There was a bunch of people outside on this lot. And several hours later, found out that Michaela had passed. And some people were saying suicide. Some people were saying that her husband done it. There was just a lot of rumors and hearsay and he said, she said going around. So the following morning, I reached out, finally got in contact with Paula, and found out that, or backtrack, about an hour after I'd found out about this, I had received a text from Paula because I had asked her what was going on, and she said Michaela had been murdered. And so,
So, not to cut you off, but it was an automatic assumption that she had been murdered. It wasn't never a thought of suicide by anybody other than, I guess, the responding agency.
right, there had been signs of domestic, her husband not letting her contact family, just little things like that. And
Right.
we kind of put two and two together.
So, had anything ever been reported as far as domestic violence goes, or was it just kind of like a passing conversation with family and friends or something like that? Like the layperson wouldn't know.
So there had never been anything reported that I know of as of today, between him and her. Um, but it was kind of amongst all of us in the way he treated her and the things he said to her, and then outsiders, saying the same thing. Um,
Right.
he just he kind of cut her off, which, being a recovering person that had lived in that lifestyle, that's something I always pinpoint on in the very beginning.
Okay, so he has a history, is what you're saying. He has a history of this kind of behavior.
Yes, we found out that there was 3 to 4 other women that he had assaulted, sexually assaulted, previous relationships, that the same thing had happened, except for the murder part.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. So we know he has this history. What, or I should say, how did y'all figure that Michaela and her husband had met, and was their entire relationship tumultuous, or did it just gradually become that way?
I think it more gradually became that way, because he was always a real charmer. Um, if you didn't know him, like you would instantly like him, you know? It was just,
So he had charisma. He
yes,
was he was one of
lot,
those guys that would charm you into kind of going along with his agenda.
yes,
All right, and so they meet, and clearly, I mean, his charisma led to, they got married and everything like that. They lived together. And you said that it kind of gradually got that way, where it was kind of like some y'all knew something was going on, but it was never reported.
right. And
Michaela,
she never,
go
she
ahead, go ahead.
never, she never would say anything. Like she never come out and told anybody, that things were going on or anything like that. She pretty much kept it to herself, like most victims
Do
do. That
you do you
that
think it was more to not be embarrassed by it,
yes,
or just she didn't? She's kind of like an independent person where she would want to kind of handle her situations internally, type deal.
she was very, very independent. That was just how her parents raised her. But I think a part of it too was she was embarrassed. She didn't want anybody to know that she let herself get into that predicament. You know, kind of, kind of. I I don't I don't want anybody to know what's going on in my home. Sort
Right.
of. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's a normal thing though. That's something that most people don't want the outside world to know what's going on the inside, and that's good. I mean, in a day and age where we live, you know, basically through social media, and everybody has to post on social media. You could find out
Right.
anything about anybody.
Right.
That's a good character trait to have, in my opinion. Is no one knows your internal conflict or even your internal happiness.
Right.
So I read and saw a news article that she worked for a daycare. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh,
She worked with my grandmother.
okay. So she worked with her grandmother at a daycare, and I also read something about she was real big into like drama and acting. Was that like her passion, or was she trying to pursue that as a career, or do you know?
No, it was just something she kind of did on the side, and when she was in school and stuff like that, she had more. She was part of the juvenile detention system for a while, and then she went into the daycare. Her passion was kids. Um,
And it wasn't she wasn't involved in the juvenile system because of any problem. She was actually like
no,
involved with advocating for the juvenile system, right?
so she worked for the juvenile system for a while, and it just wasn't what she wanted, and that's when she got into the daycare stuff, and that's where her heart was with all the babies and all the kids, and but she touched a lot of them. She had some that had issues, and she could work out the issues, and she was just really, really good with kids,
That's great.
and love to do. I mean,
Yeah.
it it's crazy.
So what did her husband do for a living?
He was he didn't work a lot. He tried to do his own business in repairs and stuff like that, but um, I don't I don't ever recall him having a job.
Mm. So she was basically the breadwinner and the stability in that relationship.
Yes.
All right, so let's let's talk about the time leading up to the actual events that took place at the Windmill Run Apartments. Was there any signs? Was there any like red flags thrown up prior to the events of that night happening, or was this so spontaneous that it kind of caught everybody off guard?
No, it totally threw everybody for a loop. I mean, there was nothing like she didn't She didn't leave the daycare that day saying anything to her grandmother. And she had left, on other days early and didn't come back to work. She didn't say anything to anybody that worked there. She didn't call her mom, her dad, and say anything. She just said she was going to go home because she wasn't feeling good. And so she left to go home, which, being in the daycare business, if you're not feeling good, the first thing they're going to say is, you don't need to be around the children. So they're going to
Right.
send you,
Right. I
you
mean,
know?
the children's immune systems are,
Right,
not as good as ours. And yeah, I mean, they do the same thing with the public school system here. Is if one teacher gets sick, they gotta go. I mean,
right,
and then
right.
especially after COVID.
Yeah. And and I think when all this happened, it, it was just a shock to everybody. His half sister worked at that daycare too.
Interesting.
So
So
that lived,
and did Michaela and the half sister have a decent relationship?
yeah, Michaela let her live with him.
So that was her decision to allow that to happen.
I think she never said that it was just her decision. She never said it was forced on her or
But she
anything.
but she was okay with it ultimately.
Yeah, she pretty
Okay.
much opened her home to the sister.
Yeah. The only reason I asked that is because if they had a not a bad relationship, but one of those relationships where you almost feel like that was a plant for him to know what she's doing at all times. If it's been a domestic past, you know what I'm saying?
And that was something that we thought about too, was that was how he was getting information on what was going on with Michaela, what she was doing, where she was at.
Right.
Um,
And I mean that's not to say that Michaela lived this lifestyle that she wouldn't want her husband to know what she's doing or anything, or even implying that she's out there doing anything bad. That's just people do that, especially males that are insecure in their own situation.
well, and there's a little bit more background to the relationship between um, Michael and his sister. So
As far as like a relationship, and I'm
yeah,
I'm air quoting relationship, so that there's been uh, is it a like an abuse relationship or a cordial type relationship?
basically he had been grooming her since she was little.
And it's reported or speculatory.
It's reported. His other sister has given us the information and we've looked at it. He was incarcerated. Um, I'm not sure if it was a mental institute he was in for it or if he caught charges for that, but it's it's out there that
There
there
was
was
there was some kind of contact between him and that sister.
right,
Okay, that's that's interesting. And to me, I would be almost be interested to know if the abuse stemmed from something in his past, maybe his father or somebody like that. Because typically, I mean, in psychology, they teach you, that trauma. If it happens very early in life, it typically follows you into your adult years, and it's a learned behavior. You don't just wake up
right,
one morning and decide to touch your sister. So
right.
I would be interested to know where that stemmed from, or what led him to become like that towards his sister.
There there's a lot of back history um to him that you would probably want to look at. So,
Oh, I'm definitely going to see what I could dig up.
uh,
I'll put it like that. But to get back on topic, I don't want to harp too much on him, especially since he's. I mean, I have to ask this: is the case right now, as it stands, considered closed or still open?
the case is still open. Um, the Sweeny Police Department are the ones that did the case, and I guess it's went to the DA, but the DA is having to reinvestigate everything. Um, and we're still waiting to find out if they're going to charge him.
Okay, so initially the report was suicide. That was what the investigating agency concluded, correct?
Yes.
So take me through, and if it's too hard or anything like that, please let me know, and we'll take as much time as you need. But can you walk me through what was explained to you, the events of that night, and what actually took place?
So, like I said, she went home at 11:30. By 3 o'clock, she was deceased. I was told that she was beaten and strangled and shot. Um, so the best to my knowledge is there was fighting going on
Right.
between the two of them or something to that issue. I know that the mortician, the guy that did the funeral services, had told her family that they needed something that would cover her arms and her neck for her viewing.
Hmm.
And of course, me being the person that I am, I'm like, why? And that's when I had found out that there was more than just a gunshot. Um,
That's
so
that's the red flag to me in all of this is that how
right,
how can anyone conclude a suicide when there were clear defensive ligature marks?
and that's one of my biggest questions right now. Like, how can any police officer or investigator or whatever say that it was suicide if the victim had bruising on her? Like, I, I don't get it. I
Now, do we know? And I'm asking this because of I keep alluding to the Will Gray story that I covered, but in that whole system, do we know if he and by he I mean the husband? Do we know if he had any affiliation to any police officers or any high profile people within Sweeny or anything like that to have them fabricate for him?
Not that we know of. He was actually not even from Sweeny. Um, he's from out of state. He's from Florida, the way I understand it.
So the only
Um,
the only thing I can conclude off of that is that again we're looking at shoddy police work because there's no way you can consider something a suicide to any degree when they have clear defensive wounds. I mean, and possibly strangulation included with the gunshot. I mean, if it was just a gunshot, okay, now we have something to work with. But I mean, she didn't beat herself up and then shoot herself.
right.
Let's be
How
honest, you know.
how did she get how, how did she get bruising on her if she was going to commit suicide? I don't get that.
Right, and most people with I guess you call it suicidal tendencies or somebody who's already made their mind up that they're going to do it, knows the time, the place, the method, and nothing you do or say is going to talk them out of it. They're not going to wait for somebody to be there. And from all accounts, they said that was the husband present or did he say that he found her there?
No, he was there. He was in the apartment when she got home. He was in the apartment the way I put everything together. We still haven't found out for sure who called 911 or who called Sweeny Police Department. Like I've never heard any of that, but I read on a post today that the husband was literally running around the the whole apartment complex with bags on his hands, acting crazy. Like,
Hmm.
but it was like, why do you have bags on your hands?
To cover blood.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only logical explanation.
I mean, you see what I'm saying?
That's
Like,
very that's very sad though, and So I didn't know he was present. I thought that he stumbled upon it or said that he
No,
he arrived home or anything. But for him to be present and all of that take place, and then him be like, "Oh, wasn't she did it herself?" No, that math don't
but
math.
and another thing that I'm not understanding is this happened on the 15th. They took him to the police station, questioned him. They literally took him back to the apartment, and he had access to the apartment. Why? I don't care if it's a suicide. I don't care if it's murder. It's supposed to be a crime scene. Am I
Right.
correct?
So wait, hold on. Run that back one more time. What date did all of this occur? That it's 3 o'clock in the morning on what date?
So it was November 15th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, so the 15th,
So
and they released it to him. They released it back to him immediately.
the way I understand it, he was back in the apartment that that night and the next day.
No, see,
But this is my thing. Hazmat didn't go in until Wednesday. This happened on a on a
so hazmat went in to clean or to assess the
they,
situation.
they evidently they went in and cleaned the apartment.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, that still doesn't make sense.
That's there's so many questions that are unanswered and nobody will answer them. Like I, I'm I don't understand.
Well, I'll say Brazoria County in general has given me the runaround. I did a public records request for Michaela's case, and they denied me. I have access to nothing.
That the DA's having to investigate the whole entire case.
Yeah, it's they will throw whatever wrench they have at you, and that's why I advocate for things like this with a podcast where I'm internationally listened to, and one fresh set of ears can mean all the world of difference. So I hope that this can reach someone. But Brazoria County, Sweeny, Texas, all of that, they've had no kind of want to do anything regarding any public records or even follow up.
They never even the chief of police never even addressed it. Like never like he literally just barely like a week ago did a interview saying that it was still under investigation and we're over 100 days into this case. Like I mean we're literally sitting on what 184 days 184 days. He did an interview on the 30th. We were literally 178 days already into the case
Of your own work, not
of
not
our.
his people's work, your own work.
It's been 178 days since she was murdered, and he wants to come out and say something now.
It must mean that someone or a group of
Oh,
people is putting pressure on him.
he got called out on Facebook. That's why he did the interview, I think.
That tracks. So can I ask you, what changed the ultimate determination from suicide to a possible homicide, or just to reclassify it as an open case and undetermined? What was that? What was that factor?
So supposedly, the medical examiner said she died from a gunshot wound. Does not say suicide. Um, and supposedly, the gun that was in the home that they took wouldn't even fit in Michaela's hand. And where she shot at, I don't understand how she could do that to herself.
So did they do a GSR test on her, gunshot residue test?
Not that I know.
Because I mean that would tell a whole lot. If someone from that close range pulls the trigger on a firearm, any kind
Exactly.
of residue is going to be embedded under the fingernails, in the hair.
Why wouldn't they kill him that night?
Yeah,
Why didn't they keep the clothes he had on that night?
right. They should have
Yeah.
tested not only her but him.
Hmm.
Um,
Because he was
what was the placement of the shot? Where was she shot at?
supposedly in the back part of her head.
And I know it seems like an odd question to ask, but was she right-handed or left-handed?
I think Michaela was right-handed.
Okay, and the placement of the shot would have been to the back right or the back left?
I could not answer that 100%.
All right, no, that's fine. I'll try to find out. I'll just say that because I've dealt with a case once where they claimed a right-handed police officer shot himself, and he was shot on the back left side of the head. So it would make no sense for a right-handed person to reach all the way around their head. You know what I'm saying? So it it just seems
I'll,
again like
I'll
shoddy police work, and it really makes me mad.
look. I cannot tell you. I'm trying to keep myself together. I cannot tell you how pissed off we are right now. This happened the day before her son's birthday. There is
Wow.
no way this girl would do this to that little boy. That little boy was her world.
Yeah.
There's no way she would do this.
I don't. By all accounts and everything that I've read and looked at, there's nothing indicating that she would do that.
No,
Everything seemed like she was very for kids, if anything.
she would do anything in the world for any kid that walked up. Um, I sat at her funeral service and watched that little boy get up and grab her mom in the middle of a song and tell his grandma that it was going to be okay. That is probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life.
I can imagine. I'm so sorry you had to witness something like that. I mean, I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
There's just no way. Like, him and her were so close. Like, every picture I think that Paula and Alan have of Michaela has her son and how happy she was to be a mom,
Right.
how this little boy was her world. There's no way she would have walked off from him.
No, I don't think so either. I I mean everything that you've given me background on the husband and the circumstances given, I don't understand how anyone would even have the thought of suicide pass through their head before making an ultimate determination. That just it makes no sense to me.
No,
So
no,
when they've reclassified and they said, okay, it doesn't really look like a suicide now. We're gonna go and open it back up. Did they rule anything else like homicide or suspected homicide, or is it
no.
just undetermined?
Right now, nothing has been said because the DA is having, the way I understand it, the DA is having to rebuild the whole case, the whole entire thing, and it's hard to build a case if you weren't physically there,
Right.
you know.
So the
So
DA is taking the case from Sweeny Police, or
that's the cases with the district attorney.
so they haven't tried to get an outside agency like the what is it, the Texas State
The
Bureau of Investigation or something like that.
the Texas Rangers tried to come in, and Sweeney didn't want their help when it all happened.
And
Like,
the problem with that is if a case is determined, I'm sorry, if the case is classified undetermined, it's up to the municipality holding jurisdiction to call in an outside agency. You can't just request it; they have to. So
well,
that's going to be the
they
holdup.
tried, and they wouldn't release it and let somebody do what they are trained to do.
Right, because I mean, to my knowledge, everything about Sweeney says that they don't even have their own crime lab.
No,
They don't have like a homicide division per se. That they outsource everything.
yes. Sweeny is little tiny, just a little tiny town. Um, and the way I understand it, every time something happens there, they've got to call outside people. Um, Brazoria County, I don't know if they have their own little places like that.
From what I gathered, everything that they outsource to the Houston area.
And
Um,
that's
so
mine too.
yeah, I'm not sure how it got. I would have to look further into it, but it just seems like if you know you aren't capable to the full degree of testing and doing ballistic checks and doing the gunshot residue test and doing a formal investigation. Come on, man. Make the decision to appease the family, if nothing else, and get somebody in there that can do the job.
Well, even if they thought that it was suicide, why didn't they talk to the neighbors? Like everybody in Windmill Run, I've lived in Windmill Run. When I first moved to this area, I lived in Windmill Run. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's kids. Everybody sees people come in and out of there. Like I the people that I have spoke to that still reside in Windmill, nobody even talked to them. Like,
Right.
and I'm not in it. And we just had another murder in that same complex.
Yeah, I was reading that. You sent me that. It was like 2 weeks ago,
Like,
right?
yeah. And I just, I mean, I don't understand. Why didn't they go talk to other people? Why did it take 2 months, nearly 3 months, for Paula and Alan to even be able to go pick up Michaela's things? What was left of Michaela's things? Like,
Right, because if there's
most
no
of them
investigation
are
going
gone.
on, that they should have released those to
Exactly.
her next of
They,
kin and not her husband.
yeah, I mean, he pretty much just flew the coop, and I mean, he was gone within just a couple days after it happened, was on the run with his sister. So I couldn't figure out, and I asked Paula,
So wait. So he left
oh yeah,
directly after this happened.
he left.
Does that
He,
not throw up an implication?
why run? If you didn't do it, if you're not guilty, why are you running?
Well, any you could watch TV and see that any kind
It,
of police show, if a loss of life occurs, anybody in the residence is asked not to leave the state for a couple weeks after it takes place, just due to the investigation.
this happened on the 15th. He was last seen in Sweeny on the 20th, 5 days later.
And the sister that left with him is the one that worked at the daycare with her.
Yeah, she's the one that went with him.
So she quit the daycare and just up and left with him.
She never went back to work after the 15th.
That kind
She
of throws an
never
implication
checked.
on her too.
Exactly.
Wow. Um, that's perplexing at bare minimum. I don't even know what to say about that. That's
Look, and this is something else I don't get. I've spoke to 3 people that was there the night that they brought him home. Not one time, not one time did he say a thing about Michaela.
it
He
was
didn't
it was
cry,
all about himself and woe is me.
wanted dogs were. Who the hell does that?
Right. I mean, if you were
Your wife
there,
committed suicide in front of you and you're going to worry about a dog?
right? Who gives a shit?
Exactly.
I mean, speaking freely, that's really shitty. That even police didn't pick up on that because I mean, you have to be as a police officer investigating a potential suicide or homicide. You
They
have to
wouldn't
be.
even talk to Michaela's family.
You got to be a people reader. You got to read the room. You got to read demeanors, and I mean that's 101. Uh, just learning that crime scene investigation is imperative to figuring out what the totality of the situation is, and they did nothing.
Well, all of this happened on the 15th. They had her funeral on the 30th, and we still, they, officers still hadn't talked to nobody.
So when did Did y'all ultimately get contacted by Sweeny Police, the DA, anybody? I mean, what is the word since this has happened? Have they told y'all they've done anything? Are they attempting to do anything? Are they keeping y'all in a loop? I mean, what's going on?
So, as far as I know, they've they've contacted Paula and them, but the DA has. But as far as the Sweeny PD, no. The only contact I think Sweeny PD's had with the Jeffries is over Facebook and telling everybody that nobody knows what's going on, um, and
What,
kind of
the police
Paul.
department posted on Facebook?
Yeah.
Is
Oh yeah.
that not a violation of privacy?
Uh, not on. If I'm not mistaken, don't all law enforcement officers sign a thing saying they will not engage in social media?
Well, I don't know about them, but I'm a fire chief full time. I've been a firefighter for 13 years, and no, when I first got the job, we had to sign a non-social media policy. Like I can't post anything on social media.
Okay. So how can how can an officer have social media under a fake name?
It sounds to me like someone wants to have their own opinion about it and be able to voice it, but then that would sway the layperson who don't know the particulars of the case. That would sway them to believe something that may not be true.
That's where I think everybody's jumping to the conclusion of suicide.
Well, anybody with a brain that knows the particulars, and hopefully anybody who listens to this that knows the particulars after you've said what the things that you've said, no one's going to be able to put two and two together that this was a suicide. This is clearly a homicide, and homicide basically just means a death by the hands of another. Um,
My husband, and if that happened to my husband, I would literally probably live at the police department until somebody talked to me.
Absolutely, there would be no stopping me.
I wouldn't have left town,
No,
and I wouldn't have been missing from the 20th of November all the way to what he got arrested on April 25th.
and he got arrested where in Florida?
He actually got arrested in Kendall County.
And what were the charges?
So his one charge is out of Sweeny PD, Brazoria County, 5,000 animal cruelty. Kendall County's got him for evading 10,000, evading arrest or detention 10,000, and failure to identify for 5,000. And the reason they got him was because the girl that he was trying to hook up with, I guess, called and turned him in because
So
she seen something on social media, is the way I understood it.
so he got arrested outside of this whole incident somewhere completely different where he ran with his sister and he was trying to already, I mean, like you said, it ain't even been a whole year and you're
No,
already trying to hook up actively with other people.
exactly.
I couldn't do it. I mean,
I could.
I know everybody grieves differently, but come on.
They literally February 21st would have been their second year anniversary. Like
Oh, so
you're
this
grieving
was
a
fresh.
lot.
Their marriage was fresh.
Yeah, very fresh.
Interesting. So, and how long total were they together?
Um, I want to say maybe 2 years. They got married the 21st of February in 23. I don't know for sure how long they were together before they got married. Um,
Seems like it wasn't that long though.
it, that's what I was just fixing to say, but I don't think it was very long because if you pull records on him, you can see the date of other incidents that have occurred with him. And it doesn't seem like he was in Texas very long before he got with Michaela.
Wow. And so he's been arrested now on separate charges in a separate place. And
Originally arrested for $5,000 animal cruelty because supposedly he left 5 dogs in dirty kennels inside
mm,
the apartment.
oh, the dogs he was so worried about that he kept checking
Yeah,
on. Interesting. Oh boy, this just keeps getting
the whole
worse and worse.
the whole thing is crazy. Like, oh, it's just,
Frustrating, right?
I want to say frustration is there, but I don't want to say that because every day I'm looking for something. I have notebooks full of text messages between me and other people, me asking questions. Um, and if we could just, this family hasn't even had time to grieve this daughter because they've literally had to be the one fighting to make sure something's done.
I
So this is
understand.
bad. They, I can't say it's frustration. It pisses me off for them to turn around and say she committed suicide.
Yeah, it's a slap in the face to
It
anybody who knew her.
literally, literally, and especially to her mom and dad. And when that little boy gets old enough to go back and read this, what do these people not understand that this stuff is on social media? It's going to be there forever.
Right. And then it makes it worse that the police are the one perpetuating the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
I,
what
I don't know domestic violence, male or female, should have to go through the crap that they go through. There's so many outs, but until that person's ready to make a change, you can't do nothing.
right. And listen, it's easy for someone on the outside of the situation to be like, "Oh,
To
well,
judge.
why didn't you just pack it up and leave?" And that it doesn't
No,
intimidation is a hell of a thing. And charm added to intimidation is even worse. Like you said, he was charismatic. He knew how to speak. He carried himself in a demeanor that would almost imply that he, oh, it's okay, baby, I won't do it again. And then he's going to repeat the same cycle.
and
So,
that's what every abuser does,
right,
and
they
people
use it. That's
like
what
that.
narcissism is.
But what they don't understand is Michaela was a beautiful girl, beautiful inside and out. But nobody knows except for him and her how bad he broke her down to make her feel like she couldn't go to someone and say, "Hey, this is what's going on."
And I think even if he wouldn't have broke her down to that point, like you said, she was a personal person. She probably didn't want anyone to know how bad it truly got. So she she is the type of person, by all accounts. I mean, she loved working with kids. She was big into criminal justice. She wants to see the good side of everything, the good side of every situation, and so that's what she ended up ultimately saw in him. I'm sure.
Yeah, and she was gonna fix it. She was gonna fix it. That's that's how it works. I mean, she, I honestly think that she thought she could fix everything that was going on with them.
More than likely, and fixers do just that. They won't quit. They have to find that avenue to fix the situation, especially once you have a ring on your finger, you got married. It's till death do us part. At this point, I'm gonna do everything I can to salvage the relationship, not just the bare minimum, because we're invested now.
Yeah,
So what happened with her son after all of this? Did her parents take him or?
he is living with his daddy, and his dad is has been in a relationship with another lady. I think they got married, and I think they have a baby on the way. I mean, he's good. He sees Michaela's mom and dad all the time, like Paula and Alan have the grandkids all the time.
Okay,
Um,
so that wasn't their breakup was kind of mutual then. It wasn't like a strained relationship to the point where like oh he just kind of got him by default. It was that's the right place for the kid to be.
they they co-parented good
That's
for
good.
for her son. Like they did everything that they could do for the little boy. Um, and he his dad, I mean, what little bit I know and I've seen, his dad's fantastic. I don't think they broke up harshly that I know of. And even if they did, it didn't show like between the two of them or whatever. It didn't show after all this. I mean, he was right there on the front row at the funeral.
Right. I mean, listen, some people just don't work out, and it
Yeah,
happens that way. You know.
and I just don't think they had a bad relationship at all. Um, and like I said, Paula gets the grandson all the time. Um, and he asks questions, to Paula and Alan, like he talks about Michaela and stuff like that. I I don't think he knows exactly what happened and who did it, but that's because he's so young and everybody's trying to protect him. So
Yeah. You don't want to remove that kid's innocence like that.
no,
I completely get it.
no, and that's something. I guess that's the reason I'm so diligent about trying to figure this out for justice on his end when he gets older. You know, because I don't ever want him to think that his mom would just up and leave him like that. You know,
Right. And I mean, listen, it takes a whole lot of people like you, not just you, but everybody that is working towards a common goal to get this solved and to provide answers for him when he gets older cuz that's he doesn't need the speculation. He needs facts and something that's going to ease his brain to let him know, "Hey, mom just didn't up and leave. She was forced." And that's it's a lack of better terms, it's a shitty situation to have to go through. But if at all you can ease his mind, letting her know that it wasn't under her own fruition, I mean that alone right
right?
there is going to be a whole lot easier to explain in the long run.
And that's probably the biggest thing that I'm pushing for is to make sure that he's always blanketed with the fact that his mom didn't just leave. Um, but also I I want my friend back. I want her mom to be able to grieve and get better because until she can do that, it, she's not even herself anymore. Like,
No, I completely understand. She's like zombie walking through life right now.
yeah, she's literally living day in, day out as just a person on this earth.
Oh, what's that saying? You're never supposed to outlive your child.
Yeah.
I mean that couldn't be more true
Well, and
in this situation.
I told her the day of the funeral, I said, I won't stop. I, until it's fixed and there's justice, I won't stop. I'll go to every avenue that I can go to and I'll be your voice and I'll do what I've got to do and I will make sure Michaela's name goes forever.
Absolutely, and that makes you the best friend she can ask for. And I'll tell you, I I'll do anything within my power, and my team will do everything that we can do to provide y'all with any help you may need. If you need flyers posted, if you need us to reach out to any organization, if anything, you let me know. We'll try to expedite that situation for you.
Thank you.
So before we wrap up and I'll let you say, I know you told me you set up a nonprofit in her name and everything. I guess we kind of covered the theoretics already, but in my head, based upon everything that we talked about, it's almost clear cut. If he didn't do it, he had knowledge of it.
Right.
That's almost the theory that I'm going with.
I personally think it was planned,
Yeah.
and I think the sister knew that it was planned. She just didn't know what day, what time, and everything to the
I
justice.
I almost want to. I don't know. I do. I mean, in order to be there, she had to have had knowledge of something. Um, but I'm more on the fence of he planned it. It went a little too far than what it usually does because I mean domestic violence situations continue to gradually get worse and worse. I mean it never stays at the same plane. So I think it got to a situation or a point where it might have got out of hand and he couldn't control it. I think the sister may have known that the domestic violence was taking place, clearly living with him, and just covered it up on his behalf.
Yeah,
I think that he just couldn't control the situation anymore.
I think Michaela was fixing to leave, and I think he freaked out.
That's a great possibility. That's usually the trigger. Is if somebody's finally had enough and was like, you know what, I can't, and that's what ultimately ends up triggering the whole event. Um,
He,
oh,
I just, I, I just know in my heart it wasn't suicide.
nah, I'm willing to rule that out 100%. That it's no way it was even an accident. Um, I
And
just don't
supposedly,
see it.
as he was trying to take the gun from her and yada yada yada, but I, I don't believe that.
The only reason that would even come into play as an excuse, oh, I was trying to take the gun from her to make sure she didn't do it, and that explains the ligature marks on her wrist or, even on her throat. I was trying to choke her out to make her drop it, blah, blah, blah. That still doesn't track. Because what led to that to me? If you just left work, you came home, and within hours this happens, that it just don't track.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken, but if I'm not mistaken, I think there's an article saying that the time of death was around noon. So it there's a possibility it happened sooner to when she got off work than to the 3 o'clock timeline. So that's something else that I just kind of want to throw out.
Noon or midnight?
Noon. Because she left at 11:30 that morning from work.
Oh, okay, okay.
By 3 o'clock that afternoon is when we found out she was deceased. But if I'm not mistaken, I think there's an article where the medical examiner said that her time of death was more to the noon side. Um, but like I said, I would have to dig through everything to find it and
Yeah.
all of that. So
See,
don't.
I was backward on it. I don't know why I was thinking it was 3 o'clock in the morning, not 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that makes more sense.
Yes, it was. She had went to work that morning. 11:30. She told her grandma she was going home because she didn't feel good, and then 3 o'clock is when all hell broke loose. So
Wow. Well, I do want to wrap up by saying, I'm extremely sorry y'all are having to go through all of this alone. I assure you, you're not alone anymore. Like I said, if you need anything, you feel free to reach out. Every case that I've handled so far, I'm still in touch with. I still post things for them. I'm just I'm in the business of helping people, and that's exactly what I want to do. And I commend you for all the work that you personally have done for this case and trying to get answers for Michaela's family and even yourself. It's not an easy thing to do, especially with. I mean, listen, you're not a cop. You don't have experience in all of this. You're doing the best that you can do with basically nothing.
right.
So, what is some ways that some people can support you in your efforts? Do you have any Facebook pages set up or anything like that?
Uh,
You know?
we did. Paula did set up. Michaela Strength on Facebook, and we have our nonprofit um, under that same name, and you can find the links to that on the Facebook page too. Um, we literally just started. I mean, we have our first event coming up in June at the end of this month. So we're just going to be out there to give out information. And if there's anybody that needs help or is in a situation they can't get out of, they can reach out. We'll do what we can in any form or fashion um, to get them the help that they need. If it's transporting, picking them up, I mean, whatever. Um, my goal for Michaela's Strength at the end is to be able to put all the organizations together to give families like Paula's um, links to avenues to people like you for a podcast, attorneys, detectives, investigators, people that want to reach out and say, hey, we're here if you need help. Because a lot of these people they don't have money. Like, I can't just go get $10,000 out of the bank and hire an investigator because I want someone else to investigate the case. I'm hoping we can pull a bunch of people together that will give whatever they can give as far as being able to help other people that are in situations like this, and just to get it out there that you don't have to stay there and you don't have to not tell nobody. If it's a bad situation and you need out, call and we'll do what we can.
Absolutely, and that's so admirable. And I thank you for being an advocate for all of those people who genuinely don't have a voice. It's very honorable.
Thank you.
Okay, so y'all heard it. Michaela Strength. It's on Facebook. Y'all look it up. They have an event at the end of this month. If anybody has any information on Michaela's case or wants to come forward anonymously or anything of that nature, you could email us and we'll get it to the appropriate party at sirenspodcastofficial@gmail.com, or contact the Sweeny Police Department or the District Attorney's Office of what is it, Brazoria County?
Brazoria County, yeah.
So you could contact the District Attorney's Office in Brazoria County. I'm sure you can remain anonymous. I'd prefer if you came forward with a name, but anybody who may know anything about this case, please do the right thing. This family deserves answers, and no one should have to endure this kind of pain for this long. So again, I appreciate you for coming on and speaking about the case and telling Michaela's story. And we're going to do everything that we can on this end to make sure the right eyes and ears hear about it and see it.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. And it's been great talking to you. This episode will be released tomorrow, wherever you get your podcast. So you feel free to share it on whatever pages or, anything like that.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
That was the interview with Miss Crystal. Again, like I told her in the interview, please, if you know anything, come forward. Go to the Sweeny Police Department or Brazoria County DA. Thank y'all for tuning in. I know it's been a while. I'm going to try to be more active. I got another case coming up within the next couple weeks, so be on the lookout for that. This episode will be available tomorrow at around noon, and look forward to speaking with y'all again soon. But with that, this is the Sound of Sirens podcast. I'm your host, Larry Frederick. Y'all have a great evening.